Welcome back. Today we wrap up the story of two Toledo teens. The pair kidnapped, bound, tortured, and killed. The suspects charged with killing Kamarian Wilder and KyShawn Pittman have been convicted, but the attorney for one of those men says there's more evidence to consider.
He's staring down the rest of his life on the same structured schedule every day, eating the same thing every day, not having any freedom whatsoever, and I think anybody in that situation would feel hopeless.
The arguments from the defense and why an attorney says the men serving time behind bars weren't at the scene at all, plus the key witness who struck a deal and the potential motive to do just that. That's the full story tonight at 11 as 11 Investigates continues to piece together the puzzle. So tonight is the fifth and final portion of this series, and Brian Duggar back with us in studio talking a little more about tonight's story. It's from the defense team's perspective. Why did you decide to do that? I love that you did, because in a developing story, you've got the prosecution, you tell what the facts are, but you also have to take, as a jury would, you take the defense's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to be fair about it.
Yeah.
And we had the family and the police, the prosecution, and now we have the defense, which, you know, I'm very glad we did, because when I went into this, I was just kind of expecting them to say, well, yeah, I mean, they got what they got and we're going to appeal it, but there's really not much hope for them. But when I started digging into it and actually talking to them, they actually believe that Charles Walker and Brent Kohlhofer are innocent. So that makes certainly an interesting angle to this story tonight.
And this is such a horrific crime. These two boys maybe get a little in trouble, maybe not, but either way, that's no way for children to lose their life, to be beaten up, thrown in the back of a car, hauled out, and then thrown in the bottom of a burning house.
Right, and that's where the stories kind of diverge a little bit, because Brent and Charles say they were never there with the car, so the kids were not thrown into this car, that they were actually killed at Maumee Avenue. And, you know, as you'll see tonight when we present the story, I mean, there actually is some pretty compelling evidence that they may have died in that house.
So when you were putting the series together and getting all the facts, you kind of were led to believe that you know, these guys are convicted. Chances are they're definitely guilty. But now even you have your doubts, personal doubts about it.
I do. And again, when I went into it, I did not have that. Obviously, I've done a lot of wrongful conviction cases when I've been here at WTOL. And some people might say, well, he thinks everybody's innocent. But that's not the case going into this story. I actually did not believe they're innocent, but the more and more I looked into it, I think there's certainly questions.
Is this more circumstantial with the evidence than anything else? There was no DNA to prove that these guys were at the scene or had anything to do with this.
Yeah, it really is circumstantial, because like you said, there is no DNA or physical evidence linking Brent or Charles to this house where supposedly they picked up the boys. And the main reason they got convicted is because two guys they testified against them, and that was Cruz Garcia and Corbin Gingrich. And these were the guys that we know were involved in the beating and the luring of the boys over there. And they were originally facing aggravated murder and spending the rest of their lives in prison. But now they cut a deal, they testified, and they're going to be out in their mid-40s.
Well, also the thing is, there are 11 people involved in this case. 11 people. And you'd think something would crack and maybe you'd find some names, and that ultimately did. But the police suspected a lot of lying there all along and had to pick through what's more lies and what's truthful in getting to the bottom of this.
Absolutely. And, you know, we had talked to Sergeant Roy Kennedy, you know, who's involved in a lot of the interviews most of the interviews with these guys. And he said every single one of them lied. Every single one of them. You know, Brent Kohlhofer and Charles Walker, they immediately lawyered up and they never did talk to the police. But the other 9 people in the case, every one of them lied. And just about all of them were also charged with obstruction of justice for lying.
What's the next step? Will there be a period of time before they can they get an appeal in this case? And is there enough grounds to even get the appeal?
Yeah, both Kohlhofer and Walker's teams have filed an appeal, and I was just talking to Kohlhofer's attorney, and he mentioned that he just got the brief back from the state, like their response to his response. So I have not had a chance to look at that yet, but as you know, this is a long process. It takes a long time to work through the court system, and it's very difficult to get a conviction overturned.
Well, it's all perspective too, because you're wanting, the prosecution thinks they prove their case. Well, is it on the defendants to prove their innocence? They should be innocent until proven guilty, shouldn't they?
Well, that's interesting, right? I mean, that is what's supposed to happen, but again, I've spent a lot of time on this case, and I've read the trial transcripts, and I certainly think, in my mind, there would have been a little bit of a doubt. Now, the prosecution and the police, they wholeheartedly believe that they got all the right people in this. And, I can't say they've done anything really wrong with this case. So, they presented their case to the jury, and the jury believed them. They did not believe the defense.
I have really enjoyed watching this series, and I'm eager to see tonight's fifth night, the final part of that puzzle at 11 o'clock tonight. What are your final thoughts about this as we wrap up the whole series?
Yeah, I mean, this really is just about the most comprehensive project that we've ever done here at WTOL. When you take into account the stuff we did for WTOL.com, the written stories, the providing the photos and the interrogation videos, and then doing several chats like this and our podcast, our vodcast, and then packaging it into an easy to consume 36-minute special. There's been a lot of people involved in this, and I can't thank them enough. And also WTOL, I mean, they have a lot of support. Management here really does support us in being able to try something different and digging into stories like this.
You and Mel primarily did the investigation?
Yep.
Melissa Andrews. Okay.
Yep.
Brian, thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to this. So watch tonight at 11 o'clock or check out the full investigation on demand now. Download WTOL 11 Plus on your TV and watch for free.